Welcome to Rockstars, the podcast where high performance meets real life.
I'm Brent Lang, joined by my wife, Jennifer Jones, and this is where we talk about rocks, rings, and everything in between.
It's about chasing dreams and asking, why not me?
And figuring out how to keep going when things get hard or hilarious.
Sometimes it's just us talking curling, business, family, and parenting.
Sometimes it's bigger conversations about success, pressure, and believing that anything is possible.
We keep it honest, uplifting, and fun.
We might even make you laugh.
Because this is about the wins, the losses, and real life in between. Rocks, rings, real life.
This is Rockstars.
Welcome back to Rockstars, Rocks, Rings, and Real Life, the podcast where a couple of dream chasers open up about chasing big goals, living in the moment, navigating life's highs and lows, and figuring out what comes next together. I'm Olympic champion Jennifer Jones, and as always, I'm joined by my husband and Olympian Brent Lang. Brent, what are we diving into on today's episode?
Today, we're going to talk about something that is important in sports. I think it's important in business. It's important with family. I think it's just important in life, really in everything we do. We're going to talk about leadership. And to me, you can't really talk about leadership without talking about culture.
Yeah, and leadership's such a big topic. It relates to so many different things that we deal with every day. So I don't know if it's going to be a one episode, one podcast.
How would you know until we go?
So we'll probably talk about it a little bit more, but we thought we'd get started and just give some initial thoughts. And it's definitely one of my favorite topics and one that I talk a lot about at corporate speaking events. I focus on it. It's often asked to be a part of a keynote. So I'm really excited for this one.
Good to hear. Me too. But before we jump in, quick shout out to our listeners. If you're loving the show, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Leave us a review. Follow us on our socials at RockstarsCurl on Insta and X, at BLang99 on X, and at JJonesCurl on Insta. You'd really be doing us a solid if you'd do that for us. So, okay, let's start with a question, Jen. What is leadership? Like, what does that word mean to you? I think you're pretty well known as one of the best leaders of all time in curling and in business. And like you said, you speak a lot about it. So to you, what does the word leadership mean?
I think leadership means to inspire. Try to inspire the team of people that you're working with that are around you, whether that's your family, whether that's your colleagues, whether that's your curling team, your baseball team, your hockey team. Leadership means to inspire in my view. And I always say that people will ask what your style of leadership is, but I think for me, it's just trying to inspire, trying to really respect what the differences are in the people that are around you, try to bring out the best in them, support them, always have their back, and just be there for them so that everybody around us can achieve greatness.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I went... I knew we were going to be asking ourselves these questions, so I cheated.
Oh, you
I went to
cheated.
Google.
I didn't cheat.
No, I know.
But I never cheat. I am a rule follower. I know it.
So I don't
get
think
anxiety.
it's really...
I get a little stressed when we don't follow the rules.
It's true. Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's another topic for another day. But if you Google leadership, it's the art of motivating, influencing, and guiding individuals or teams to achieve a shared vision or goal. It's a social process focusing on empowerment and collaboration rather than mere authority. Said simply, leadership is the ability to influence others toward a shared goal while earning their trust along the way.
In other words, inspire.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. I agreed with you. I already knew the answer, and I agreed with you. And I love the last part there, earning their trust along the way. I don't know anybody who's been successful in a leadership role or known as, a kind of a guru of leadership that hasn't earned the trust of whomever they're working with. And it's not a lead and follow thing necessarily with leadership, but I think that's a big one. So let's break that down a little bit, Jen. Let's talk to me about guiding or direction when it comes to leadership. How do you how do you pick the direction and how do you guide that team or that business group or whatever your family, whatever you're doing? How does it happen?
I think a leader provides clarity. Not just what you do, but why it matters. And, I'll use our kids, for example, when we're trying to lead them. We talk about when you make a commitment, you stick with that commitment and you follow it through because you're a part of a team. And so we always tell them why. Why do we always have to stick with a commitment? Because people are relying on us and it provides that clarity. And so, our kids love their activities and they do them all the time because they love it and that's why they do it, but it's also because we've also made a commitment.
Yeah, and I think it's one of some of the old traditions or the old ways of life. You know, be a man, be a person of your word. If you say you're going to do something, you have to do it. Otherwise, people are never going to believe you when you tell them things. And I think that seems pretty common sense, but it's easier said than done. I realize that, but I think that's super important. If you're going to be in a leadership role, you want people to believe in you. You want people to trust you. Go back to the trust. If they can't trust what you're saying, if they can't trust that you're going to do your part and you're going to do what you said you were going to do and, you know, lead in that direction, then you're going to lose that, you know, that group or that team or that husband very quickly. Don't lie to me. Right? But
You're a terrible liar. You know that.
No, I have learned that.
But how about influence? What are the best ways to influence people? Or put another way, why should or why would anybody want to follow you?
That's a good question. That's one that I don't wrestle with it every day. That's just kind of a saying. But at work, I mean, in our business at Weedman Mosquito Hero, people don't listen or, you know, follow is a weird word, but people don't listen or follow me just because I'm their boss. That's not enough in today's world. And that might be a little bit old school where it's like, you know, do as I say, not as I do, the old parenting. And it's like, that's not really how people work. That's not how human nature works. If you want somebody to do something and to believe in you and you know, follow you down a road, then you better be willing to do it, I think. You know, and same goes for your curling team. They don't just follow you because you're the skip, which leads me to kind of an aside question I wanted to ask you. And does it have to be, I mean, curling's always going to be central to our podcast and our life. Does it have to be the skip that is the leader on the team? I know in your case and with your skill set and you developed into that, and maybe it's a two-part question. Does it have to be the skip and was it natural for you?
No, I don't think it has to be the skip. I do think having it as a skip makes it an easier kind of functionality as a team, just because the skips on their own, they're making decisions on strategy. They're the ones that are throwing the last rock. They need to really inspire confidence, I think, in the rest of the team. And that's easier, in my opinion, to do from a leadership role. But that's something that I learned. I never really truly wanted to be the leader because I didn't want to ever boss anybody around. I like everybody to feel good, to make sure everybody's happy. I get stressed when people aren't happy, and I just never wanted to be the boss. And then it was through actually talking to our sports psychologist, Cal Botterill. He says, just because you're the leader doesn't necessarily mean that you're the boss. Like, you can lead in other ways. And so I think when people ask me what my style of leadership was, or I don't know if it's a style, but like you've kind of related to it already. Just do what you say you're going to do, inspire, create trust, and just always have their back and uplift them. And I think my teams would agree that I was the one who would think outside the box, come up with a plan, and always try to, you know, do what I say I was going to do, work as hard as everybody else, and just kind of lead by example. And I know those are kind of cliche words, but if I remember when I hurt myself and I hurt my knee, my team never once questioned whether I'd come back because
you'd already proven to them that you could be trusted and you could be counted on, and that if it was possible, you would come through.
Exactly. And I did what I said I was going to do always. So when I said I was going to work hard and I was going to do these things, there was never any question. I've been in situations where there's been a leader that, you know, makes promises all the time to everybody, maybe even the same promise to everybody that is in that situation. And then many people are let down because,
well, you can't keep your promise to everybody.
You can't keep your promise. And then all of a sudden you just kind of lose your word. Like, your word, and it means so much. It's like integrity, just the fact that people can trust what you say you're going to do. I think it's so powerful. And the moment you lose that, it's really hard to get it back. And so I've always tried to, if I say I'm going to get something done, I get it done. And whether that's in law, whether that's in curling, whether that's as a wife, as a mom, if I make a promise. And even riding home tonight, Skyla said to me, we were just talking about something. I said, don't worry, honey. Like, we'll figure it out. And she goes, I know, Mom, we always figure it out. I know that you'll always help me figure it out. So you instill that trust in them where they feel like they can come to you with a problem because we'll solve it together. And that to me is what a leader should do.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to culture. In our family, that's the that's the expectation. That's the standard, that things can get hard and things can get overwhelming and things can get confusing. But at the end of the day, we always figure it out, and it's not always perfect, but they know. I think the kids feel safe enough to know that, hey, yeah, I'm stressed right now, but we've been here before. Like, we ask a lot of them, and we fit in a lot in our lives, and sometimes it's hectic, but I think that's a pretty good lesson, for them to understand. And again, you don't let them down. It's not like you promise to be somewhere and then don't show up.
Yeah. And I do believe that anybody can be a leader. I wasn't something that was natural. I was a shy introvert person. You think of it as a leader, as somebody that's gonna, I don't know, not be shy, like be extroverted and outgoing.
Boisterous, loud,
yeah.
Motivational, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but you can have different styles. And I learned to become the person I needed to become in different situations in order to inspire my team. It wasn't natural for me, but I learned how to become the leader that I needed to be in order for the teams that I was a part of, whether that's in business or curling or wherever, in order for us to be successful.
Yeah, and don't you think that just gave you even more credibility with your team, because they knew you well enough to know that's not a natural thing for you? And having those, you talk about Cal Botterill a lot, and he asked a lot of you, and he said, I'm going to paraphrase, and I've heard lots of stories, but he asked you to become the leader in a place where you were like, no, I just want to kind of do my thing, and yeah, I'll lead by example, and I'll play well, and I'll work hard, and all those other things. And I think Cal kind of challenged you to say, in this situation on this team, that's not enough.
Yeah, it's not good enough. And you need to inspire. You need to look at them. You need to look at your team in the eyes. You need to show them confidence. You need to kind of create the path. And it wasn't natural for me, but he did. He pushed me outside my comfort zone, and he made me realize that, even if it's not natural for you, you can do it. And
it's a learned skill. Some people naturally are, I think, leaders, but a lot of it's learned along the way, and people are thrust into those roles whether they like it or not, because maybe you're the best player on the team, and sometimes they demand you to be the leader, and that doesn't always work because it's not in your makeup, but it can be learned. I would agree with you on that. But ultimately, leadership is influence. Is that not true?
Agree.
Kind of back to that idea, and influence on people comes from creating buy-in into what you believe, and the vision that you're painting for your team or your family, your business, whatever it happens to be, because people will follow you if they trust you. If they trust your judgment, they respect your consistency to whatever it is that goal or that vision is. I talk sometimes about, what's the North Star? I had a good conversation today with an old buddy, a childhood friend, and he stopped in, and we're getting older. We both agreed on that.
I don't like that, but yes, we are.
And he's talking about, what's the end goal? And he had listened to a podcast, and he said, freedom of time. He said, I loved when you said that. And I said, yeah, that's it. He's like, so how do
listen to our podcast, not a podcast?
No, ours.
Our podcast.
Yeah. But he said, so how do we get there? And it's like, well, the only way that I see getting to where I want to go is we have to own a business. And he agrees, and he owns a couple businesses as well. And so we got to kind of talking about that. But the vision, and I think I used the term today with Kevin, saying, our North Star is freedom of time, and that is a number. It's a net worth. It's an income without requiring all of our time that we have to get to really, reach the goals that we're trying to get to. And so every day you make decisions based on that. And, there's a good book, Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? And I've talked about that before, a British rowing team. And every day they ask themselves the question, whether if there was a decision to be made, will it make the boat go faster? If the answer is no, I'm not going to do it. If the answer is yes, then I have to do it. And it can be something that simple. And if only I had that kind of discipline. I'm not saying I do, but yeah, if you're doing things that you say you're going to do to achieve the goal that you've set out as your North Star, as your vision, and people see you doing that on your team and are on the same path, and you can show them that you genuinely care about not just the goal, but them as people as well, I think that's going to go a long way. And, part of that, I think part of leadership is accountability. I think we've said that. A lot of the terms we're going to talk about today and the things we're going to say, they're almost saying the same thing in different ways, right? So is accountability a part of leadership?
1000%. Definitely. I think accountability is a part of everything in life. If you really want to have credibility with anybody, is that you have to be accountable to yourself and to your teammates and to the people around you. And leaders will always set the standard for that. The idea of what is acceptable, what is not within the team culture. If something goes wrong, a true leader will own it. They don't deflect. They admit they made a mistake. We all make mistakes. And that's what I often talk about. when I'm speaking at a keynote or wherever I may be, is that we're not perfect.
We're not? No, I'm not. You're not?
Well, I know you think I am, but no.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
We're not perfect. We all make mistakes, but it's a question of what you do with that mistake. And we like to call them learnings. I know a lot of people use that phrase, but it's about, and when you're a leader, you have to own it. Just admit this was wrong, or I made a mistake. I went down the wrong path, but let's pivot. Let's try to figure out how we can make this better. Don't deflect, and that will build credibility.
I don't think anything builds credibility faster than you taking responsibility for something that may or may not even have been your fault.
But if it's because you're a team.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to
if
take
our
this one. I
team-
could have done better, and it might be a very small piece of it. But if all we ever, and there's a great book about this, Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink, I think is how you say his name. He's a Navy SEAL, an American dude. And I've watched his videos. I use it in some of the coachings over the last few years. And basically what he's saying, it's like I said, it's called Extreme Ownership. Basically the idea that everything is my responsibility. Not that I necessarily caused everything that goes wrong, but I own it all. You know, when something goes wrong, I own it. If my team fails, I own it. If communication breaks down, I own it. The best part about taking responsibility for things in your life like that is that you have some control, right? If it's my issue, if I own that challenge, then I can fix it. And if I always ask myself, okay, what happened here? Like an example at work, and I'm in the middle of training a couple of guys to take on leadership roles, and I'm not saying I know it all, but they're learning some lessons. And one of them is when your team, who you're responsible for their skills and their performance, when they don't perform well, it's not, well, I told them to do it.
No, it's
oh, I've not trained them well enough yet. And it's a very small, I think, shift in your mindset, but it's everything. And that's what I'm trying to get them to come to on their own. That's the other thing is I could tell them what to do. I could show them what to do. I could do it, but that's not going to help them long term. It's not going to help us get where we want to go long term. We want these people to be able to operate without us. So the idea of if I'm a team leader at a job and my team makes a mistake, it might be their fault, but me fixing the blame doesn't help anybody. I need to go back and say, did I follow up with them? Did I give them the right training? Did I do the daily checks? Did I make sure that our standards were clear? And then again, go through the exact same steps over and over again. And it's not good enough to say I told them. And then eventually, you know, maybe people don't fit. But that was an interesting one today because we're making a bunch of little kind of standardized changes at work and some systems. And I've asked a couple of the guys to implement them. And I mean, it was day one yesterday, and I go out and I was just looking. I was like, "How'd this go? How'd this go?" Oh, I told them that it didn't happen. I told them that it didn't happen. And so we had the conversation, and it's like that's the idea to me. That's what that book, Extreme Ownership, means. And if all I ever worry about is that I take responsibility and I have impact and I can make a change, then that's empowering. I think that's a good thing rather than feeling helpless. Right. The other thing Kevin said to me today is like, there's a lot of external things that go on that are. I know I can't change them, but man, is it difficult to deal with. And there's really only one thing to do. He had a bit of a staffing issue, and he said, I'm just treating that person even better now that they're leaving me and hanging me out to dry. And I was like, there's no other way to do it. There's no other upside. What's the upside of doing anything else? But just kind of taking responsibility. And he didn't say, hey, I wonder why she's leaving. It's my fault. But that's how I try and think about it at work when I lose a good person. So, and that, I think, if you describe that, I mean, Jocko Willink, if you've watched any of his videos, that's a guy I'd follow. That's a guy I'd want to, you know, not really go into battle. I know he has, but, you know, kind of in a, not a war kind of way, but follow him anywhere because of that attitude that he's always going to take responsibility. He's always going to worry about what he can do better to make me better. And I think that's leadership in a nutshell. I know I went off on a tangent. Did I lose you? I lost myself there for a minute.
You didn't lose me, no.
And that leads to kind of the next question, because I think I know the answer, but does leadership involve elevating others?
For sure it does. I mean, we all want to be around people that are joyful and happy and doing their very best. And I do believe that the best leaders are able to encourage and allow the people around them to shine and to grow. I always said on my curling team, I wanted to be the biggest cheerleader for my teammates. I wanted them to succeed more than I even wanted myself to succeed. I mean, we were part of a team, so we kind of shared joint success.
When they succeeded, your job got
yeah,
easier.
but in terms of their shots and everything, like I wanted them to shine and to sparkle and to do all of those things. So it was my job to ensure that that happened. And when I'm talking about the curling ice, it was about giving shots in certain circumstances to ensure that they were makeable. Like some ice didn't allow shots to be made, or maybe one person was struggling with a certain shot that game. So why would I keep giving it to them over and over and over again when the chance of success was low? So then you pivot and you maybe call a different shot because I want them to shine. You also want to give your team and the people around you responsibilities. You want to allow them to grow and feel proud of themselves. And there's nothing like, and I think most parents would say the same thing, when you see your child grow and gain independence and be so proud of their accomplishments and what they did. Like just be so proud of themselves that they're on top of things or that they were able to do something all by themselves. Well, and that's part of being a leader, is to encourage and to see the people around you take those steps kind of towards even greater success, towards their dreams. And if everybody gets better because of you, if you are able to get the absolute best out of the people on your team, then you're a true leader. If the opposite is true, well, then I think you really have to think about what that means. Are you not doing something that inspires? Are you not appreciating the differences of your teammates? And maybe each teammate requires different things from you, and that you have to be perceptive. You have to look and see what the individual needs are of that teammate in order to be successful, or of that colleague, or of that child, or of that spouse. We all need different things. Like you and I aren't exactly the same.
We're not?
No, I don't.
No, we're not. I need everything. I need a lot of support. Well, I think you touched on an important part there. And as a skip and as a curling team, I mean, if somebody's struggling with a certain shot, yeah, you want to switch that. Don't keep giving them the same shot and expect a different result, because confidence is, it comes from success, from little things. And you talk about, at World Financial Group, a company I've been involved in with a number of years, it's EPR exchange, encourage, praise, and recognize. And when things go well, you want to point those out because you want to build momentum in your team. And, if there are things that you can recognize, I think that goes a long way. And again, that shows some maturity and some signs of a leader that's trying to get the best out of their team. If you just keep telling people they're doing things wrong and you keep putting them back out there, do it wrong till you get it right. Well, that's not really how the human psyche works. I mean, maybe in rare cases. And I've seen it in curling where I swear there's been skips over the years, like, that have called shots in spite of somebody struggling with it. Just like, you should be able to make this. And that, yes, this is our standard as a team and this is unacceptable. But in the middle of a game, maybe this isn't the time to prove a point, Kevin, Martin. Or even I saw Gushu. I swear he did it sometimes to his guys too. And
I'm so oblivious to that. I didn't even.
I could be totally making that up. But those are two of the guys that had the highest standards, legendary players and really known for how hard they worked and everything else, and expectations on their team were huge. But in the heat of the battle, I don't think proving a point helps. No, and it's okay. You take that back to training, or you take that back as a learning to figure out going forward. But in the middle of a moment, in the middle of a big presentation, if somebody's struggling, help them out, whatever it may be, in order to have them achieve success, and then talk about it after and say, okay, what can we do different? What can we do different to ensure that we achieve results? Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things that sets really effective leaders and leadership's, not styles, more skills from those who are, maybe just okay, is decision-making under pressure, especially. We come from a sporting background where every now and again, there's a shot where somebody has to decide. I mean, you're shot making under pressure. I mean, the skip has more of that on them than anybody else. But every now and again, there's a decision where nobody's really quite sure, and somebody has to step up and be the one to put their neck out there and say, this is what we should do. And even when that's, I think it's a good skill in curling sometimes, where you kind of sense that nobody really wants to take charge here. So even if you're not sure, that might be your role on the team. And some of the teams I was on, I felt like that was my role, just to add that I'm not in charge out here, but hey, when there's a moment where we're not sure, I felt like the more sure I was talking about it, and Glenn actually mentioned this to me one time and said how much he liked that. And I was like, okay, good, I'm doing something right. But yeah, decision making under pressure. That's the sign of somebody. Like anybody can be. You can pretend you're a great leader when everything's clicking, you're winning all the games, or the customers are running through the door because you've got a product, right time, right place. Maybe you made masks before COVID hit, and it's like you're not necessarily a great leader. That wasn't what led to that success. But when things are tough, when you have to pivot, when you have to make changes or have to make tough decisions, I think that's when the cream rises to the top.
And I actually always felt like decisions are easier for me under pressure.
Wow, you're gonna have to tell me why that is.
I know you're gonna. I think when there was a time crunch, which is another reason why I think we need less time in curling, because we take too long on some of these decisions. But that's just curling. But when you had to really make a decision, whether it was negotiating a legal document, whether it was making a shot at the Olympics, when you had to make that decision, I felt I had so much clarity. It just seemed very clear. You couldn't hem and haw. You couldn't think about the pros and cons. You just had to decide. And people would say, go with your gut. I've never really been a go with your gut kind of person. It's just, you just know, right? You just kind of, I guess it's a feeling, maybe that's your gut, but you just had to decide. Whereas I think when I don't have time pressure and then I'm too factual. I look at too many of the pros and cons. I try to weigh out too many things. I try to strive for perfection. And then I'm a little bit slower on making a decision because I'm trying to make it too perfect because I have the ability to. I have the time. I have the flexibility. So I'm better to make that clear decision when I'm on a time crunch and there's pressure on.
Is there a lesson in here for me? Like, is this a tip? Like I
was thinking about that. No, I don't think it's a tip.
Oh, it's the opposite of that. It's like, don't do this?
No, I don't know. I was just,
I'm so confused.
All of a sudden, it wasn't meant
I thought
for
I was
you.
learning something like,
No.
oh, it wasn't for me? I see
No,
it.
it
That's
wasn't
my
meant-
problem. I think everything's meant for me.
Yeah, it wasn't about you. No, it was just, I just find it, because you'll even like when I'm booking flights, I'm like, oh, but what are we going to do? Like, when do we want to land? Like, I try to make it perfect and what hotel room we are and where do we want to be in that hotel to make it like the best.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah, right? But if I'm going to make a shot to win the Olympics, I can decide in like 2.5 seconds and throw it with clarity.
Yeah, maybe we should find a way to get a little bit more of that into every day. See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I think the lesson is here. And I'm going to take extreme ownership and see how I can help you with that by doing something differently myself. But I think, promises made, promises kept. You've heard that. I think if you want to be somebody who people have faith in, who people want to, follow you down that road, whatever it is, no matter how difficult it is, you have to have that trust. And I think we've beat that to death. And you've got to have that North Star. Make a plan to achieve the goal. Surround yourself with the right people. It comes down to the right people to execute the plan, and then execute on your responsibilities and see how you can help other people be better. I think that's fun, isn't it?
It is so fun. And one other note on that is I don't think you should always surround yourself with people who are like you. I mean, I kind of like myself.
No, but I think you want to almost do the opposite.
That's what I mean. That's what I was going to say, is that try to surround yourself with people who bring a different perspective so that you don't lose out on those little nuances that you may otherwise lose out on if everybody just agrees with you. And again, when you're a leader and your whole team just agrees with you all the time, over and over again, you have a problem because you want their perspective. You want that feedback. You want to know what they're thinking so that you can make the best decision. And that doesn't mean you want to be around a bunch of yes people. It might make you feel like you're doing a great job, but I think if you have perspective, you'd realize maybe not necessarily the case.
Yeah, maybe I'm pessimistic, but if I'm in a room and every idea I have, everybody's like, yeah, that's great. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Where's the hidden
So you
camera?
like it when I challenge your ideas?
That was not what I said at all. I expect it though, but I think long term it's good. I don't like it when you challenge certain ones.
Some of them are good.
Yeah, but you were looking for a word earlier. Charisma, I think, is what a lot of people look at somebody who's charismatic and can hold a room, and when they walk in, everybody looks, and that's a great skill. And I think that one's a little bit natural. It can also be learned, but follow through builds trust more than charisma. Follow through wins every time, I think. Would that be accurate? You can have all the charisma in the world, but if you can't make people believe in you and trust in you, and the only way to do that is to do what you say you're going to do over and over again, that's how you build that that trust is through the follow through.
Yeah, charisma will get you in the door, but it doesn't close the deal. And so you need that follow through for sure.
We're obviously involved in curling and talking about curling coaches and things from time to time. And it helps if you've been there, done that, right? Like we talk about leading from the front, or if if you're giving advice to somebody in curling on how to get from juniors to through university into the ladies game, you've been there and done that. And yeah, it wasn't last year, but does that add credibility? Can you have that credibility without experience? If you're going to lead a group, can you lead a group to do something you've never done before?
I think you can, but I think it's a lot more challenging, and I think it's harder to get buy-in. It's much easier to get buy-in when you've been there, you've done that, you've shown, you've proven yourself. But I don't believe that anything is impossible. I don't think it's impossible to lead a team to something that you have never done yourself, but it sure is a lot easier to build that trust and to have that credibility if you've done it before.
Yeah, and obviously I knew the answer to that question. I mean, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, they're leading people to do things that nobody's ever done. So right. It's possible. It's possible.
Dreamers, yeah.
Big dreamers, yeah, outside of mine. But another thing I don't think we've touched on is I think great leaders trust their people. It's part of the role of, especially in business, you own a business and just because you own the business doesn't make you a leader, that's for sure. But you have to be able to trust your people. If you are able to, and we're trying to with our businesses, like I've said, we're trying to, delegate's not the right word, but we're trying to build people into leadership roles and teach them the skill set so that we're not really required on a day-to-day basis. We have other things going on, and it's that freedom of time. So if you give somebody a responsibility and you train them and give them the skills they need to make the decisions, is it fair to say you have to let them make those decisions? You can't swoop in at the last moment and say, thanks for putting your heart and soul into this and doing exactly what I asked you to do and trained you to do, but we're not going to do that. How would that make you feel?
Not great.
That's how I feel too. I would not like that.
Probably fairly defeated. And it's like, well, what's the point? Why did I put all this work into it? I was so proud of it. It almost becomes your baby when you're working on this project that you have so much pride in. And then all of a sudden it's torn apart. And so if you are that type of leader who wants to know what's going on and have a little bit more input, then there has to be regular check-ins to make sure that you're on the right track and you're not just going to swoop in and change it last minute and really crush somebody's confidence.
Yeah, I don't think you can crush a culture faster than that. I mean, you surround yourself with good people, you bring them in for a reason, and you train them up and you give them those responsibilities, and then you swoop in and say, that's not how we're doing it anymore. And actually, Jen, it's not your call anymore. I'm going to just make that call. And that's something that, can happen in business. I think it happens all the time in business. And it's something that I'm not saying I never do it. I caught myself doing it today at work. That's why I brought it up. But, it's better to kind of let them make that.
I do that with laundry.
Oh, Christ.
I do.
How? I'm not allowed to do laundry. We've been through this.
Well, because you once did it and it ruined a few things. So now
I've never ruined anything. The one laundry accident I had years ago is I ironed a golf shirt that was one of those wicking fabrics. Yeah, they melt.
Yeah, they do.
Real quick. Thankfully, it was low enough the shirts were long enough I could just tuck it in because it was our uniform at work. We got these, I think it was Dunning golf shirts, and I melted mine. It was not my brightest moment,
ironing.
But
step in the right direction.
Yeah,
anyway, sidetrack.
Ever since, I don't iron anymore. But anyway, no, I think a lot of this is common sense. I mean, but common sense isn't that common, right? We're talking about micromanaging versus macromanaging, right? Where are you, and there's nothing wrong with being involved as a leader and being in there, but I hope you're in there as a cheerleader and as check-ins and for updates and not in there just constantly saying, yeah, no, not that way, this way, and then not that way, this way, that kind of thing, because culture beats talent every single time.
I think so.
Well, you get the best out of your people. We've seen lots of teams that have been super talented, and some of them get it done, but there's been other teams that it's how do they get it done? It's because of how well they function, and then every now and again, there's a Team Mowat that has both.
When you look at Rockleague, Typhoon Curling Club.
Right? They got the most out of their parts.
Yeah. And it was their culture, the joy, the smiles. You could just see the infectious gratitude out on the ice, and they played very well. They played as well as they could play. I thought they really brought it every single time. And so culture beats talent. Every single team out there was very talented, the best players in the world, and they had great culture.
I would agree.
And I think that's a great way to end. I mean, obviously, we're going to have some different segues into leadership. It's something that I know both of us talk a lot about in corporate environments, and it relates to so many things in life. So we're going to bring it up often. If you have questions, please feel free to ask, because we think it's an important part of life.
Oh, for sure it is. For sure it is. So we do have some Rockstar rapid fire questions.
I've got one for you.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Apparently, somebody asked, and this is kind of one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast. What makes Jennifer such a great leader in her curling career?
This one was asked by @JJonesCurl. Is that where it came from?
No, it wasn't me who asked.
What makes Jennifer such a great leader in her curling career? Well, I think it's a number of things. But I think at the forefront, and we've already kind of talked about it, was you were always looking for ways to get better, and you were always leading that charge. And I can say this, you can't, you could say this and nobody would call you crazy. You were always the best player on your team, but you were always the one looking to get better the most often. Like you were always looking, how do we get better? How do I get better? And if your best player is doing that, again, that's just somebody you want to run through a wall for. So I think that's what did it. And it didn't hurt that the bigger the moment, the better you got. And that's just, that's trust. I know that how many times did Don say to you, there's nobody else I'd rather throw last rock than you. And so that's, that's a pretty good feeling. So I think that's where it comes from.
Why? Thank you.
No problem. Yeah. Do you want me to tweet that out too?
No,
Make sure
okay.
everybody sees
No,
it?
it's
Okay.
good.
Okay. All right. I got one for you. I know we've established you've been a great leader in curling and in business and in life. What is one leadership quality you wish you had developed or adopted sooner? That's a tough one.
I don't even know the answer to this one. That is a very tough question. One leadership quality. I think I've always been a person of, do what you say you're going to do and try to instill trust and work ethic. I think for me, it would be to be a little bit less sensitive to feedback, which I'm better at now.
Thanks to me, because I give you so much feedback.
Yeah, and a little harsh sometimes.
Oh, come on.
So, well, you're just blunt, and that's fine.
Honest. Choose the right words.
So I think if I could have learned that earlier on, it would have just been just easier. Like it's not always constructive criticism. It's just about trying to grow and evolve. And I've never been scared of change, but I always wanted people to be happy. And I think when I received constructive feedback that I was letting somebody down. So it wasn't about what they were saying. It was about the fact that I felt like I had failed them. And so I didn't like that feeling. And so I think if I could have changed my perspective on that sooner, it would have been a lot easier to just evolve and to be better.
Cool. Are you a good delegator?
No. Maybe that should have been my answer.
I wondered if that might be your answer, and I'm not saying...
No, but I'm also not a micromanager. Like if somebody's going to do it, like I believe and trust, and if they say they're going to do it, I believe and trust that they're going to do it. I just don't ever like to burden anybody with anything. So then I just do it. So it's not about not having trust or micromanaging. It's just about if I feel like, oh, they're too busy, I'll just take it on and I'll just do it.
You always want to help.
I always want to help. I think that's one of my Achilles heels is that I just want to help everybody around me have their best outcome, their best life. And sometimes I sacrifice my health.
Yeah. But don't you think being able to delegate is a good leadership skill? Yeah. Like, isn't that the job of a leader? It's like the conductor of an orchestra, right? You're trying to bring all the pieces together. You're not playing the instruments.
Yeah, no, for sure. So maybe that we'll add that one to the list as well is just being able to let go and maybe cutting myself a little bit of slack and just letting other people, like maybe giving myself a little bit more free time.
What list is that? Is that the list I make up for you of things to improve that I keep adding to? So nice of me, eh?
I haven't even seen that list.
Oh, no, I haven't presented it to you yet.
Okay, you're waiting.
I'm not crazy, but question for Jennifer from Sue Wellings. As a skip, how do you balance being the boss of the team while also staying connected as a teammate and a friend?
It's a great question. I don't really view being a skip as the boss of the team. I always felt like we were just all teammates, and I think you could be a leader and and just try to inspire like we talked about. So I always felt really connected to my team, and I always felt like we were friends. And but you also have to separate, like when you're on the curling ice or when you're in the boardroom, that's your primary focus. And so we were teammates in that moment. And then we're always going to be friends, and I feel like, you develop this bond that you'll be forever close. But on the curling ice, you're trying to inspire great shot making, a great performance. And then off the curling ice, that's when friendship kind of takes the prominent role. So it would really fluctuate, but I never viewed myself as a boss. And I don't think the skip is really a boss. I think most of the time they're the leader. They're trying to inspire. So when you're trying to inspire, it's easy to feel like you're a part of a team.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's fair. I think that's a good answer. But I think we're winding up.
Yeah.
So I think we can thank everybody for tuning in. Keep rocking the chaos, chasing adventures, loving the ride, and never stop dreaming. We'll see you next time on Rockstars.